What's Up Taiwan? I'm Yvonne. Thanks for joining us. Beijing and Washington are at odds after a U.S. Navy plane flew through the Taiwan Strait. It prompted a strong response from China, just as the two countries had looked set to mend ties. Our reporter Rick Glauer has been following developments for us in Taipei. Rick, where do things stand between the two countries now?
So China scrambled its jets and approached that US Navy reconnaissance plane that was transiting the Taiwan Strait. Beijing described the move by the US as creating a public hype. The US said that it was simply upholding freedom of navigation, and Taiwan, for its part, said it monitored all of this military activity and didn't see anything unusual. The Strait is a tense and busy travel route. China claims this area as its own and regularly sends military boats and planes across the Strait towards Taiwan to intimidate the country. And the US also, for its part, often makes this sort of transit by sea or by air, often prompting a similar angry response from China.
And what can you tell us about the timing of this fallout? What could it mean for the delicate US-China relationship?
Well, this all happened just a day after a rare online meeting between the US and China defense chiefs. That's the first time they've held a proper meeting since 2022. And we know that Taiwan came up in that chat. China took the opportunity to reiterate that the Taiwan issue is one of its core interests. So why this transit and why this retaliation from China? Well, analysts I've spoken to here today say that it's about the two sides maintaining their positions but also stabilizing communications. Both Washington and Beijing know that high-level communication between the two sides is necessary to avoid any accidents or escalations in this type of sensitive location.
Thanks, Rick. That was Rick Glauer on the latest after a U.S. Navy plane flew through the Taiwan Strait. U.S. House Republicans have introduced a military aid bill that would set aside over $8 billion for Taiwan and counter China in the Indo-Pacific. The package was one of three foreign military aid bills set for a House vote as early as Saturday. President Biden plans to sign them into law and is urging Congress to pass them this week. It's part of a plan by Speaker Mike Johnson to get aid to U.S. allies after months of gridlock in the House over a multi-billion-dollar package that includes much contested assistance for Ukraine. Russian missile attacks have killed at least 18 people in northern Ukraine. More than 60 people were also injured in the strikes that hit infrastructure and residential buildings in Chernihiv city center. Ukraine is facing shortages in air defense equipment and munitions, and its President Vladimir Zelensky is asking Western partners for more support. It comes as the U.S. House of Representatives prepares to vote on a bill that would provide over $60 billion in security aid for Ukraine. Taiwan's defense ministry says it expects its domestically built submarine to be ready for deployment by 2025. The announcement comes as the head of the country's submarine program stepped down, citing physical and mental exhaustion. The ministry says the Hai-Kun submarine is currently in its port testing phase and will soon begin sea trials.
我们一项一项都要过关，每一条船交完件之后，成军训练完，他就正式加入。
好，那第一条什么时候嘛？
明年交件，一定有攻击人员，不然没办法通过我们港试，然后再做海试。
Creating a more inclusive Taiwan is on the agenda for multinational industry and government reps from the United States and Taiwan. At a forum in Taipei, leaders discussed how to make Taiwan's workforce more competitive. Joyce Sun reports.
About 100 business representatives have gathered here in Taipei with Taiwan and U.S. government officials for the first forum on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, hosted by the American Chamber of Commerce and American Institute in Taiwan. Now, Taiwan is facing an aging population and labor shortage. Leaders here say that the solution is to embrace talents from historically marginalized communities. AmCham Chair Dan Silver highlights that companies with gender-equal executive teams are 25% more likely to have above-average profit. Now, according to data from the Taiwan Stock Exchange, women only make up about 15% of board members in listed companies here in Taiwan. This is lower than Asia's average of 20% and notably lower than in the U.S., where there are about 32% of women on boards. Acknowledging there's still more to do, Sandra Oudkirk, AIT's first female director, says she's confident in Taiwan's ability to become more inclusive as it champions human rights and freedom. That message was echoed by the forum's VIP guest, Taiwan's Vice President-elect Bi-khim Hsiao, who spoke about changes she's seen in gender equality in her political career.
When I was a legislator over 20 years ago, we often heard comments made on gender-based prejudices in our legislative yuan. Those comments are no longer acceptable on today's floor. They will be condemned.
Now, even before Hsiao has been inaugurated into her new role, the new administration has received some criticism for a lack of diversity. Taiwan's premier designate has been slowly revealing new cabinet members, which so far has been almost all men. Hsiao did not speak about this directly here, but she did say more action on diversity and inclusion is needed. For example, she said more is needed to engage with different ages as well. For example, older generations, especially in a digital age. Now, of course, diversity goes beyond gender, and so that's why leaders here have pledged to ensure equal opportunities in multiple aspects and in their own domains to together create a more inclusive Taiwan. Ethan Chen and Joyce Sun in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. President Joe Biden is accusing China of unfair trade as he seeks to triple tariffs on Chinese steel.
They're not competing. They're cheating. They're cheating. And we've seen the damage here in America.
He made comments during a campaign stop in Pennsylvania, the center of the U.S. steel industry. He says Beijing heavily subsidizes their steel companies, allowing them to export goods at unfairly low prices. The proposed tariffs would include 25% levies on Chinese-made steel and aluminum. China's trade ministry says it opposes the proposed tariffs, saying the U.S. lost its competitive advantage years ago due to overprotection. Myanmar's ruling junta says the country's former leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been moved from prison to house arrest. The junta cited a recent heat wave and health concerns as the reason for the transfer. The 72-year-old was arrested in 2021 after Myanmar's military overthrew the country's democratically elected government. She's serving a 27-year sentence on charges her supporters say were fabricated for political reasons. Suu Kyi's new location has not been disclosed and her transfer has not been made public in Myanmar. Over 800 people have been evacuated in northern Indonesia after Mount Ruang erupted multiple times. Residents fled Ruang Island by ferry as lava and ash billowed almost 2 kilometers into the sky. Authorities raised the volcano alert to the second highest level and issued a tsunami warning on threats the volcano could collapse into the sea. Officials say the eruption was triggered by earthquakes in the area and more could follow. Daily record-breaking rains are causing chaos across the typically dry Arabian Peninsula as streets and airports flood. Research looks into why these extreme weather events are happening.
Roads become rivers. In a city located on the famously arid Arabian Peninsula, Dubai has seen record-breaking rains over the last 48 hours. The resulting floods have brought the city to a standstill as residents cling on until waters subside.
I am from 10 years here, but it's the first time I see in the history of UAE how the rain come with too much,
And the Dubai International Airport, one of the busiest in the world, now resembles an ocean, as passengers from around the world find themselves stranded with hundreds of flights cancelled.
There are hundreds and thousands of other passengers just like me in this airport who have been waiting for 10 hours, 16 hours, some even for 24 to 30 hours.
Well over a year's worth of rain has fallen on Dubai and the surrounding areas in the last few days. It's the biggest downpour the area has seen since records began. North of Dubai, one person drowned inside their vehicle and at least 19 have died in floods in neighbouring Oman. Rain does fall in the region, but almost never to this extent. Meteorologists say human-induced climate change is making extreme weather more common.
I think it's a very normal weather pattern. And however, I think during that, for example, the previous day is very hot. The warm temperature enhanced the low pressure system stronger. And another reason is the global warming, because global warming make the low pressure system stronger and the convection more severe.
The UAE's National Centre of Meteorology is denying claims that cloud seeding intensified this storm. It's technology sometimes used to force rain over the typically dry region.
يعني لو كان في استمطار ممكن أقول لك أن الاستمطار لا علاقة أو شيء، يعني لو كان في مسوين إحنا استمطار في هالحالة كنت بقول لك، لأن الاستمطار أكيد بيزيد كمية الأمطار اللي التراكمية اللي توصل على الأرض، بس لأن هالحدث لم يتم عمل أي عمليات استمطار فيه فكانت كلها طبيعية.
Cities like Dubai are just not built for these kind of weather events. A lack of infrastructure means floodwaters rise fast and deep.
Dubai City, there's no drainage system because every day is dry. So they don't need to spend lots of the infrastructure to help the city to prevent the heavy precipitation. Not like Taipei. For example, in these 2 days and in Taipei, 1 day is over 100 millimeters. It's very common for us.
Without the drainage systems needed to accommodate such sudden volumes of water, much of the city of Dubai will remain submerged until the desert sun returns to clean up the mess left by these unprecedented rains. Karma Hsiao and Hsiao for TaiwanPlus.
The Solomon Islands are awaiting the results of an election that could impact regional security in the Pacific. The election is being closely watched by Australia as well as China and the United States. The Solomon Islands play a key role in rivalry between Washington and Beijing. Current Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare switched recognition from Taiwan to China in 2019. Now up for re-election, he has vowed to deepen relations with Beijing. But voters are more concerned with domestic issues.
We have civil ties with Taiwan, and now we have diplomatic ties with China. I think for me, I was hoping that will bring good change for this country, but I've yet to see that happen. See it to happen.
Work crews are rushing to repair earthquake damage at Taroko National Park, a key attraction in a region that depends on tourism. But it could take years before the key economic driver recovers. John Van Trieste reports.
It's a team of excavators versus a wall of boulders. Taroko National Park in eastern Taiwan is no stranger to rock slides, but this month's magnitude 7.2 earthquake has destroyed bridges and rendered hiking trails impassable, leaving the park closed indefinitely. Repairs are moving ahead with the same urgency as other cleanup and demolition work. This park draws millions of tourists to the area each year. It's a vital asset in a part of Taiwan where tourism is key. Park officials say there's a mix of good and bad news.
本来初步判断是会比较轻微，不过这次管理处的同事进去勘察又真的会比我们初步判断的还要严重。坠入古道啊或九七洞等等，可能就是尽量来努力。那我初步如果可以的话，我们希望能够在年底有一个初步恢复的一个景观出来。
And a few of the most popular sites could even reopen in as little as 3 months. Still, there are warnings that a full recovery may be a long way off.
从921的地震的经验，或者从日本大地震的这些经验，要让一个地区要让它稳定下来，恐怕需要的时间要到10年以上。有一些这个步道啊，其实是临崖的，这些呢都是大自然存在的一些风险。
Hotels damaged by this earthquake have already laid off more than 100 workers. And shops catering to tourists remain closed as bookings drop to around 10% of normal numbers. With key attractions like Taroko National Park closed, the tourism industry that sustains many of the earthquake's survivors can only try and limp along. Delphine Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, come along with us to Marseille in southern France, the start of the torch procession for the Paris Olympics. I'm Yvonne. Take care, and I'll see you next time.